Hey, welcome to Keight's Krafts. I'm Keight. Today I would like to share with you what I made for the My Favorite Things Sketch Challenge. This challenge ran from July 6th through to the 12th, 2022. I will also include a few bonus cards at the end for a little extra inspiration. Let's get started. Here's some of the items I'll be using today. Sky High Friends stamps and dies, Creepy Confections paper pad, and the Wonky Stitch rectangle die stackables. I've already gone ahead and cut out all of my paper panels that I'm going to be needing. I used 110-pound cardstock from Recollections, and I used the 3 different Creepy Confections paper colors, or patterns I should say. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take some low-tack tape and I'm going to tape them together because we are going to be cutting out our panels. So I'll tape one at the top and one at the bottom, and I will get my brand new paper trimmer. I just recently got this from Michael's with a 30% off coupon because I could not resist. And it was a bit of a learning curve at first to learn to cut with these. I got to remember to put my fingers down on that little guide there, or guard I should say, and hold it down. It cuts a lot better for me than the slider ones, but you can get like super thin with cutting. So all I'm going to do here is add a bunch of glue to my panel, very thin like coat, and I will take my stitched rectangle cutouts here and I will add some tape runner adhesive to the back, and then I'm just going to tape them down. But first I want to make sure that none of the little tape runner adhesive is poking out. So I'm going to line that up to the stitch, and then I'll do the rest to the other ones. And once that's all adhered down, I have my panel for my card complete. Next up, we are going to do a little bit of Copic coloring. I have some B000, the colorless blender. I have Y35, Y32, C5, C3, and C1. Now, I was kind of in a little bit of a slump as far as what I wanted to make, and another crafty friend of mine had suggested, why don't I try doing a challenge? So I'd looked up a couple of challenges and thought, well, I haven't done a My Favorite Things challenge, and I don't really have a lot of their dies and stamps, so I thought, well, why not? Now, the website says that MFT products are encouraged but not required, so I could have kind of went all willy-nilly with this, but I thought it would be kind of a fun idea to stick to the few items that I have from My Favorite Things. Now, I have a couple of more stamp and die sets, not very many, but I thought, you know, I hadn't used this one yet, and this was actually a double that a friend of mine had bought and was all upset because sometimes, you know, when you don't check your cart, you end up buying 2 of something, but luckily, you know, she has a friend that likes to collect as well, and if the price is right, well, then I just end up buying it off of her. So, win-win. And this was one of those particular dies, so to my friend, I thank you very much, Lynn. This is actually the first time I've used this particular stamp set and die set, so I was kind of excited to have an excuse to use it because, you know, I have quite a few lawn fawn items, and I seldom think to really ever expand out to the few other brands of items that I have, other than the My Favorite Things Wonky Stitch die, which I absolutely love. I love that stitch die, and I'm glad that I got it, and, you know, in the future I'm hoping to get the other Wonky Stitch dies just because it's part of a collection, and there's so many things that I want, and, you know, with this hefty craft business of buying and finding and whatnot, it can get a little pricey, so I tend to have to pace myself, but I don't know, overall I think this stamp set was quite cute. It was different to color compared to like the lawn fawn critters, which I'm used to, so these were a little bit bigger. I wasn't used to coloring in such large stamps, yeah, I don't think I have too many large stamps quite like this. These were a couple of inches. So, it looks like 3 inches by 2 inches, I want to say. So it was kind of neat trying to navigate through coloring larger spaces like this, because it's not very uniform with large and small. It's kind of really detailed, to me anyway. So I had a lot of fun trying to navigate around these particular stamps. I ended up stamping out them a few more times from the stamp set to color for the other cards, which I do off camera. So otherwise we would, be here all evening. But from what I understand, this sketch challenge on the My Favorite Things website states that the My Favorite Things products, are encouraged but not required. So I thought it would be a neat idea to actually use My Favorite Things products, and not generally steer myself away from that particular idea. Because it's so easy just to go to your tried and true and what you're used to. So this particular card was a little bit out of my comfort zone. I'm not used to working in such pastel colors or this particular color scheme, so I thought it was kind of neat. It wasn't exactly my favorite, but once everything came together and I was finished, it actually looked quite nice. I was quite pleased with myself. Is it my favorite? Probably not, but, with every new card you make, you learn something new, right? So I take this as a learning challenge. So anyway, I've got these YG colors, which I don't have very many colors of. I know one of them is a little dry, so I had to kind of improvise here. I think it was my YG 9. So I found that the 13 looked alright. It was a little bit of a difference between the two. But I figured, if I blend it in enough, you won't really notice all that much. Plus, once the alcohol marker sets into the paper, it kind of evens out a little bit more, I find. So long as the contrast of the colors aren't too stark. But, I don't know. These were really cute to color. Here I've got a few E markers, some E15, E13, and E11. I like these colored browns. They're like a warm reddish brown, and I thought they would be really cute for the bears. And with the rabbits, it was kind of like, well, they look a little like mice, and I like my mice to be gray, like the cool gray, not the warm gray. I mean, they're cute with the warm gray, but it just doesn't sit right unless they're the cool gray. And I mean, I could have done these different colors like with the rabbits because there's so many, but I wanted to keep the coloring simple. Yeah, here you can see my E17 markers a little dry. I'll have to find some refills for this one. I do have to go through all the rest of my markers to see which ones I need refills for before it gets too out of hand. But, yeah, that's next on the list. First is all the distress oxidings, and then it goes to refills. So I'm slowly building. I'll get there, though, eventually. This is quite a fun hobby to have, and I don't know, I could see myself going places with this. So, anyway, I'm just doing the tip-to-tip method here, and coloring in the best that I can with the dried out 17 marker, and I thought it turned out okay. So, again, I'm going in with the C5, the C3, and the C1 like I did with the first little bunnies that I did in the clouds, and I don't know, I thought it was quite cute. It was a lot to do in one night. Like I said earlier, I kind of already did the card, and the video was just way too wonky, and I couldn't do anything to it. I tried to stabilize it, and it just turned out like, I don't know. I couldn't even imagine trying to sit down and actually watch the video. So I scrapped it and thought, you know what? The night's still young. Why don't I make another card? Or 4. And that's what I did. So here I've got my Jelly Roll White. I think it's the 1.0 or the 10 or however you want to call it. And I'm just going around my critters and the balloons and adding little dots and dashes just to give it a little cuteness effect. And I thought it would be cute to add little dots to their cheeks since the I think it's the R20 and the E93 that I used for the cheeks weren't really showing up in the brown. So I thought I'd try out my luck with the white. And here I have the Sakura Stardust Jelly Roll pen here. And I'm just going around with the shimmer bit and adding that to the clouds. Now this one, compared to the Wonky Stella, is a little bit different. This is more of a, I guess, a thicker concentrated glitter, whereas this Wonky Stella is kind of more watery, so it's not as concentrated, but you see me going off the edge there to pick up some with my brush, because sometimes the brush dries out and I don't get enough, so I squeeze it, but I tend to squeeze it too hard, no matter how soft I try, and it ends up gooping out. So here I'm going to take this panel, and I've taken the navy blue panel and I've cut it down to size, so that way I have a very, very thin white border around it. And I've added some 40mm double-sided score tape to the back to adhere it to my card panel. Now back to that new trimmer. The difference I find between the slider trimmers and the guillotine trimmers is that you could get really thin cuts with the guillotine as opposed to the paper trimmers, like the slider ones, because those are good if you're doing like cards or something like that. But the guillotine, I find, if you really need to shave down the edges, you're pretty good. So now that I have my foam tape on the back and it's propped up, I have a finished card. And as promised, here are the bonus cards that I created using the same challenge layout, if you will. I think I had a fun time doing these. Would I have done another 4 cards? Probably not. So, lesson learned, always keep things stable. So if you've enjoyed today's content or found it helpful, please give this video a like. I also welcome you to subscribe, as I post weekly. Here's another video I think you might enjoy. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Take care.